We've listened to what you guys have put out there, and we would like to give you some straight feedback, some straight answers as why we do the things that we're doing or what may be the reason behind the spending that we do. One of the questions that we've gotten is the need for the levy, and a lot of people have said the district isn't living within its means. The district isn't spending appropriately. The district isn't cutting where it needs to cut. And the reality is that that's simply not true. We have made cuts for the last several years, and just like every home in America, the prices of everything is going up. The price of electricity, the price of food sourcing, the price of supplies, the price of having employees has gone up. All of that stuff continues to increase, and the amount of money that we get from the state of Minnesota has increased slightly. We average about 2% a year from the state. So we have things that we need to provide to our students. We have special services. We have students who struggle in different areas. Those services have to be provided whether or not we have funding for them or not. And the legislature at the state and the federal level, they mandate things all the time. But what they don't do is give us funding for those things, or they fund them partially. That money then comes out of our general fund, and that's where our levies come in, right? The levy dollars that we're asking for will go into our general fund, and we will use those dollars to supplement all the things that we're already doing, plus the mandates. So then what do? You have mandates, you have staff to pay, you have supplies you have to get, and then we have students we have to take care of. We try to stay as far away from the classroom as you can. We started making cuts at the administrative level. We've made cuts as far as teachers, paraprofessionals, those who retired, we didn't fill positions. The district has made cuts across the board. And as much as you try to stay away from the classroom, eventually you run out of places to cut. And that's what we're facing now. We are out of places to cut that won't affect the students. When we're seeing the questions come in that say, why are you asking for less than last year? It is not because we didn't need what we asked for last year. It is because we heard you. We heard you say it was too much, that you couldn't afford it. If we're not able to get both questions passed, we're going to start looking at cuts immediately. We're looking at the equivalent of 23 full-time employees. That's not a small amount. That's not something we can just move things around and try to do a little better here and there. That is a catastrophic amount to remove from our budget. That's something we can't make up. And what we're hearing is that the legislature or the governor is planning to fund the schools fully. We can't count on that. Just like community members don't plan their budgets based on what they think may happen, schools can't do that either. It would be irresponsible of us to not look to the future and plan ahead. We can't take a campaign promise and plan our funding based on that. We have to plan based on what we know, what is concrete. And what we know is that our funding on average increases 1% to 2% a year. So that's what we have to base our plan on. One example of an unfunded mandate that the school district struggles with is our special education cross-subsidy. The word cross-subsidy is foreign to those who aren't in education, and that is the amount of money that we pay from our general fund to cover that difference. The money to pay for these mandates has to come from somewhere. This is a bigger problem that affects far more than just our district. The school is doing their part by joining with organizations like Schools for Equity in Education, the Minnesota School Boards Association, those that are lobbying the state and the federal government to provide that funding. So what are we talking about as far as your tax impact? The tax impact on a $350,000 home in Delano is $9 on the first question and $19 a month if you vote yes on questions 1 and 2. People have said there's not a $350,000 home in Delano. That is the average tax value on a home in Delano, and that is different from the sale value on homes in Delano. So although our homes tend to sell higher, our average tax value on homes in Delano is $350,000. One of the big concerns that we've seen online is a misunderstanding of the difference between the bond and the levy. A bond is like the loan that you would take out to buy a car. A levy is like the money that you would use to put gas in a car. You can't use the loan that you take out for your car to pay for the gas that you put in it. The same is true of a bond and a levy for the school. The bond that we took out was to build the buildings that we have. The levy that we're asking you to support is to pay for the operations of the school, and that is it. The price of fuel has gone up. And if you are trying to pay for fuel on the same amount of dollars that you had 10 years ago, you're not going to be able to go as far as you were if you have that same income that you had 10 years ago. And we're all feeling it in our normal everyday lives. Why is this important? The number one reason is the levy is expiring at the end of this school year. The second reason that it's important is because we're going to deplete our savings. Our district has done a lot to try to keep as much away from the classrooms as they could. At the end of the day, my job, the job of the school board, the job of the school, is to educate our students. And nothing is off the table when it comes to cuts. What gets cut will be determined after the levy vote is done. The committees will sit down and we'll discuss what those cuts look like. But education is going to be the priority and everything else will be second.